we're excited about the opportunity to go up to Kansas City. I don't think anybody has to tell you that it's a hell of a team. All three phases, they do a great job. There's Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame quarterback, defensive coordinator who's probably one of the best in our league. So they got good coaching. They got really good players. They execute at a high level. The stadium is a tough environment to play in, so it's a huge challenge for us.
How do you prepare for a team when they have like a lot of injuries and maybe guys are being roles that they maybe wouldn't normally have a lot of tape on them, maybe doing some of the things that they'll likely be doing?
Yeah, look, I think you have to prepare for the scheme, and then use your best judgment as to where they're going to try to utilize people within the scheme. So yeah, I think there'll have to be some sort of an adjustment, in terms of who they have playing in certain spots. I mean, Rashee Rice obviously is probably the biggest one. So we're obviously not expecting him to be available. So they'll have somebody else in that spot. Now, whether they do that with a wide receiver and keep the same personnel grouping, do they change personnel groupings and do it with somebody else? That remains to be seen.
The quarterback and the tight end obviously remain the same. Do you guys expect, them to move the tight end Kelsey around a lot to try to figure out?
Yeah, look, they move him around a lot already. When you watch the tape, he's in a ton of different spots. I mean, they put him outside at number 1, they put him inside in the slot, they put him at number 3, they put him in the backfield. They do a lot of different stuff with him. So I would expect to see him continue to move around. Obviously, they do things to try to get the ball to him, and yet they've got a lot of other talented players that they get the ball to. So it's with this team, it's never really been a one-man show. They spread the ball around pretty good, and they've got a lot of talented players to get the ball to.
What do you think of Steve Spagnuolo, what he does defensively?
I think he makes it really challenging. I think they do a really good job. I think they play hard. They play fundamentally sound. They kind of get up in your face out on the edges and press you up and make you have to beat press coverage. He's got a pretty significant blitz package, and so he challenges you in a lot of different ways. Gives some unique looks that can be difficult for the offensive line, quarterback, those kinds of things. So I think he's done it at a high level in our league and had masterful plans in Super Bowls to win games. So yeah, he's a problem, as well as the players that he has executing that plan. They do a really good job. I think Nick Bolton's an outstanding middle linebacker. Smart, instinctive, very rarely out of position, tough. Look, I mean, I can go on and on about a lot of their guys. They've got obviously a really good team.
What will the ramp-up process be for Kendra Miller?
Well, he practiced today, and so we'll just see how he goes, throughout the course of the week, and I think we'll just kind of evaluate where he's at kind of on a day-to-day basis.
What would his return add?
I don't know yet. I mean, I would be hopeful that it would add another playmaker to our team, another guy that can be explosive for us, and I'm hopeful that that's what that is. But I think we need to see him practice, see him perform. I thought he had a good practice today. I thought he did some good things. So it was good to have him back out there.
Are you able to say whether Taysom Hill broke any ribs?
Yeah, he's got fractures, but exactly, what all they are.
What you talked about the pass rush not being as disappointing on tape when you reviewed it, but what is an element of your pass rush, or I guess of the defensive front in particular, that you need to see more of?
Well, I mean, look, I just think it probably gets down to a little more consistency in all facets, in all areas, you know. There's not one thing that's like, okay, this is a glaring weakness. You know, I actually think there's a lot of things that we're doing really well up front. You know, I'd like the quarterback to go on the ground a little bit more. But I do think we're getting some pressure on the quarterback. It's not perfect, but I think we are affecting the quarterback. And you know, I just look at effect on the quarterback. I look at quarterback completion percentage. I look at quarterback rating. You know, interceptions. Like all those things tie together. And so I think overall, I think that's been pretty good. I think we got to eliminate some of the explosive plays. I think that's probably the biggest thing that, from a defensive perspective, if you said, what's the one thing, not trying to single out an off defensive line, linebacker, secondary, whatever the case may be, coaching, whatever, you know, let's eliminate the explosive plays, whether it's a catch and run explosive play, whether it's a run explosive play, or whether it's a deep ball down the field. Let's eliminate, you know, those explosive plays. I think that's something that we need to improve on. And so we're going to, and we'll be tested this week on that.
I was gonna ask you about those bullet points. I'm sorry. I was going to ask you about those bullet points that you're talking about with the pass rush when you're facing a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who I know offensively the numbers for KC hasn't been there yet, but they've been able to win. Is that kind of that gets stressed even more to make sure that you're affecting Patrick in that sense in order to get in order to do what you want to do?
Yeah, look, I mean, he's a hell of a player, you know, and you just watch him play and you're like, there's nobody else that's doing that. There's nobody else that's making that throw. He's not the fastest quarterback. That goes to Lamar Jackson, you know, but he is very poised in the pocket. He has great pocket presence. He somehow knows where the rush is, where the escape lanes are. He can get through a escape lane up to his right, up to his left. He can get around the pocket, and then he can throw the ball from any angle you want him to throw it from, accurately. And so, you know, he's really difficult to deal with. I look back and you know, we played him in 2020 here, you know, and a lot of the plays came off of his ability to, you know, kind of escape and find a guy that got to his secondary route and was able to get open. So I think that's a huge challenge for us.
How do you deal with kind of those second effort plays? Like, is it just got to cover forever? Like,
We got to cover them twice.
Yeah.
You know, we got to cover the first route, and then we got to be able to cover the second route. And then when we have an opportunity to get the quarterback on the ground, we need to be able to get the quarterback on the ground. It's much harder to throw the ball from laying on the ground than it is when he's able to kind of stay on his feet. So we have to finish on the quarterback when we have those opportunities. And so that'll be a big point of emphasis. And you know, it's easier said than done with this quarterback too.
Shane Lemieux dealing with anything serious?
No. I mean, it's nothing serious. He didn't practice today.
Do you? I know you were here in 2017, and much has been made of what almost happened. Were you at that workout that Sean went to with Mahomes? Do you remember being in the war room that night? I know you all got Lattimore, and he was your top guy, but Mahomes, and maybe kind of perspective on what went down, how it happened, just from your recollection.
Well, yeah, I was there when we went out and worked him out. And so I was just kind of a fly on the wall and watching, and it was evident that he had a tremendous arm, athletic, could throw the ball from multiple different angles. It was a pretty impressive workout. Now, I didn't sit in the meetings with him and talk football with him. that was Sean and those guys that did that. But my understanding is it was pretty good. And then, look, we're sitting in the draft room, and Drew was in the back of the draft room, which, was just kind of a coincidence. And we're sitting there, and we're like, we're going to take this guy if he's there at our pick. And so I think everybody was kind of excited and a little nervous at the same time, but Kansas City obviously felt the same way that we did, and moved ahead of us and took him. And we're extremely pleased with the player that we got. He's been a really good player for us.
With Chris Jones and the amount that he moves around inside outside, is that how much more challenging is it to prepare?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I think anytime you have a player that's that talented, you don't know where they're going to line up. I don't know whether he's going to be on the right side, the left side, he's going to be inside, he's going to be outside, he's going to be, head up somebody. We don't know that answer. And so here's what we have to be able to do. We have to be able to adjust to whatever it is that they're doing. And I'm sure that they're going to try to, put them in spots that they think they have a favorable matchup.
You talked about covering Mahomes twice, but obviously that also includes the receivers. How much are y'all harping on disciplining the defensive backfield when he has those scramble plays?
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about covering the receivers twice. They run an initial route, and then if the ball doesn't come out, then they uncover, and they got certain spots they're trying to get to. And I think they do a really, really good job of, and Kelsey in particular, finding the void in the zone. I think he and the quarterback work really well together when they get to these secondary plays, and they find ways to, create completions and explosives down the field when they're doing that. So, yeah, I think it's important. It's important that, we put our eyes in the right spot. A lot of times you see guys, when the quarterback starts to move around, guys tend to want to see where the quarterback's going, and lose sight of where their plaster rules are. So we got to do a good job, when the quarterback does move around.
After the game, you had mentioned his rib injury was on the other side of his previous injury. Was he playing through rib fractures on the other side as well?
No.
Okay, so it was just two totally separate.
Two totally separate incidents. Yeah.
Can you share what happened? What update on Willie Gay Jr.?
He's dealing with a hand injury.
It looked like he posted something that he had a procedure or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Saints have only played in Kansas City twice since '97, but I know you coached in the division. Much is made of kind of the atmosphere of the stadium. Is it what they say it is?
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome environment. It's a pretty cool environment. I would expect it to be a really cool environment on Monday night. There's a lot of history in that stadium, and there's been a lot of great teams, a lot of great players, that have played in that stadium. So, you go to these stadiums and everybody's got their ring of honor, and you go to Kansas City's and you start looking up there at their ring of honor, and it's pretty impressive, the guys that they have up there in their ring of honor. It's pretty cool to see.
Do you have any memories of Denver or with the Raiders going there?
Well, look, I've coached there with the Saints. I've coached there with the Raiders. I've coached there with the Broncos. So I've been in that place, several times. Yeah, I think we beat them there when I was with Denver. I think Tebow hit a late pass down the field, and we ended up scoring a touchdown. At least that's what my recollection is that we won that game. It's been a lot of huddles broke between now and then, but look, it's a great environment. It's a tremendous environment to go play in. There's a little bit of the kind of the college atmosphere, when you go there and play, and so it'll be challenging but yet fun.
Didn't see Peyton Turner today, but is he a guy that could Would you like to see him more after what he did with the strip sack? What do you kind of made of his season?
Yeah, look, I think he adds something to our pass rush, and so yeah, my hope is that we would be able to get him more involved in the pass rush.
Can you provide some insight in terms of what went into the practice squad change with Cabote and then bringing Jermaine Jackson back?
Well, Jermaine was a guy that we kind of wanted to have on the practice squad anyway before he got injured. And so that was kind of one that we said, hey, look, you go and rehab and get healthy, and then there's a certain amount of time that you have to wait before you can sign the guy back to the practice squad. So that was in the works from the time that he got injured. And then really it boils down to, we're getting Kendre Miller back to practice, and so there's only a certain amount of spots that you have, and so that was really what it boiled down to is we needed a practice squad spot. We were adding a runner back to the ability to practice, and so that just made sense that was the spot that we went to.
And what was it about Jermaine that made you so adamant about bringing him back?
Yeah, look, I mean, I just think he's got returnability, and so as an inside slot receiver with return flex, I think that's intriguing, and so I think that we just need to look at him a little bit more.
4 games into the season, what are you encouraged by right now? Like what parts of the game?
Well, look, I'm encouraged that we've put ourselves in opportunities to win every single game. And look, nobody likes to live in the hypothetical world or the what if world or any of that stuff. And yet we've had opportunities that we could be sitting here at 4-0. We're not. Okay, so that's the discouraging thing, is that to be a 4-0 team or to be a playoff team or to be one of those teams like that, we have to figure out how to finish and figure out how to win. And we're not there yet. We haven't done that yet, all right? But I think that time's coming.
Are there parts of the game, though, situationally you're encouraged by, maybe, I don't know, third down, red zone, I mean, the things that you're...
Yeah, well, look, I mean, obviously we've played well red zone on both sides of the ball. Our offense has scored touchdowns down there in the red area at a pretty good clip. I think we're 1 or 2 in the league. Defensively, I think we're 1 or 2 in the league. Offensively, we've been good on third down. I don't think we've been as good as we need to be defensively on third down. I think that's an area that we can improve on. A lot of that comes with our ability to tackle. We've been one of the better missed tackle percentages on first and second down, but we're not very good on third down in terms of missed tackles. And those are those critical downs that matter. So, look, I think with the exception of one game offensively, we've scored points. Defensively, we've limited points, and I think that's a good recipe for success. We have to protect the ball a little bit better offensively and in the kicking game, all right? And we got to continue to take the ball away defensively, and we need to get some special teams takeaways. So,
with how much you said, y'all are a couple of plays away from being 4-0, and Kansas City has made those plays. How much do you think a win would be a good measuring stick for y'all taking that step towards knowing how?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think anytime you win this league, it's good for your confidence. And in particular, if we were able to go up to Kansas City and play, a really good team, 2-time defending Super Bowl champions at their place, and if you come out of there with a win, then that would certainly build some confidence for our football team. But they're a good team for us to watch. Not necessarily from the scheme or the style, but the ability to make the plays in the critical situations. I look at their team and I say, defensively, okay, they have to stop Atlanta twice, and basically what amounted to two-minute drives. They get a red zone stop, on a 4th down pass. They get a red zone stop on a 4th and 1. They win the game. Offensively, they're able to convert on a 4th and 16 with a pass interference penalty. They end up kicking a 50-yard field goal to win the game. they got the ball backed up last week. I think it's 3rd and 6, and they got to get a first down or else they're punting the ball back to the Chargers and giving them an opportunity with good field position. They make the play on the shallow cross. So it's a team that, I watch and I'm like, they make the critical plays or make the play in the critical moments. And that's what the really good teams do.
With Taysom, is injured reserve a possibility?
I don't know that.
How do you feel about your receiving core, and would you consider adding to it?
I like our receiving core. I think we got some good young players that I feel really good about, and I think they're taking a step up. I thought both Chris and Shaheed did some good things in the game the other day against Atlanta. So I like our receivers. I like our team. If there's ever an opportunity that we feel like makes sense to help our team, we're going to try to help our team. But I like our receiver room.
So if there's a player out there available, you'd consider going to get them?
Yeah, maybe. Depends on who that player is and a lot of other things.
They had a close connection with Derek and Keith Williams.
You guys are getting a little too much. We can't really comment on anybody that plays for anybody else. So,
question with the late game stuff: how important is technique into that factor? Like just owning your technique. Everybody can play fast, physical, and smart at the end of the game. Everybody is, but you always have to fall back on your technique.
Well, look, I think your technique is what you have to fall back in all the critical moments. That's why we, if your technique wasn't important, then we would never do individual drills. We just go out there and run ball plays and see what it looked like, But we spend a lot of time on fundamentals, technique, in a lot of different areas. How are we going to make this block? What's my footwork? What's my hand placement? What's my angle? How am I going to play press coverage, footwork, hand placement, eyes? There's just a lot of things that you got to work on. And I tell them all the time, like your technique is what you rely on when when your matchup is maybe even or maybe you're at a slight disadvantage. I like to tell the DBs, if you're covering me, then your technique probably doesn't matter, because you're just better than I am. But if you're covering an NFL receiver, your technique matters because sometimes that guy might be better than you.
Sitting where you all are now, having this extra day, even though the schedule shifts, how much of an advantage is that for y'all when it comes to maybe injuries or just kind of locking in on some things y'all want to work on? Yeah,
well, I don't know if I'd say advantage. Kansas City's got the same extra day to get ready, so I don't know that it's advantage. I think every day that we get an opportunity to maybe get some guys healthy and get some guys back, helps us. But and we get a little bit of extra time, really probably more so coaches of getting into the game plan and spend a little extra time there.
Obviously, your schedule moves around, but for the next 3 weeks, it's 3 games in 10 days.
Yeah.
Are there things that you do or intensify at a certain point or emphasize at a certain point to kind of help through that kind of schedule?
Yeah, well, you got to really pay attention to your recovery. You got to really pay attention to taking care of your body, making sure you're getting the proper amount of rest, proper amount of sleep, because that's how your body recovers. Taking advantage of all the things that we have in here in the training room to be able to do that. Obviously, once you get to a Thursday game, now you're really talking about everything's more of a mental, aspect. When you come off of a Monday night game and you got a short week, you got to change the schedule up a little bit in terms of how much can you do from a physical standpoint. But everything is all about recovery and making sure that mentally, physically our bodies are back, but we got to make sure we're mentally sharp.
On an interception like Derek's the other day, do you tell him to not? I mean, some coaches don't want the quarterback to pursue. I don't know, is that something y'all constantly talk about, or you want him on the ground, obviously, but that he can get hurt?
Yeah, look, I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, you know. I think if you can, I'm certainly not wanting him to get, you know, driven into the ground, you know, by a blocker or somebody like that. But you know, I think get over there and shoo the chickens a little bit and try to see if we can't slow the guy down and let the cavalry come and get the guy on the ground. I think that's as much as anything, you know. I talked to him more about let's don't do that. You know, let's put the ball on the ground and dirt it, and then we don't have to cover those things. All right, thanks, guys.